I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in, everybody. So today, I'm filming this for the second time. The file was corrupted, and so I was like halfway through getting comfy cozy after having already filmed for a full hour. No one's bad, just disappointed. Thankfully, I discovered the corrupted file like before I fully got comfy cozy. So I'm feeling a little bit squirrely. My hair is back in my massive scrunchy thing. We're just gonna have to deal with that and talk about everything that happened reading-wise in December, which was so many disappointments and DNFs. December was busy in a way that I don't think I could have ever predicted. There was just a lot going on with my family, my husband's family. I got re-auntied 3 times over. 2 of them were within 6 hours. Heaven went to an animal hospital. We got cancer diagnosis. Like, not me, but like family. That's not even like scratching the surface. Reading-wise, it made for a weird month. There were some books that hit hard and I really enjoyed. There's several 3 stars that were like what I needed in the moment, but so many DNFs and disappointments. So just buckle in for that because it was, as Shelby from Spicy Book Nook said, it was DNF December for me. So anyways, without further ado, let's talk about the books, shall we? Okay, so first things first, we have the Tyrant Alphas Rejected Mate. We're not doing good already. Oh boy. The Tyrant Alphas Rejected Mate by Cate C. Wells. This is an interconnected series. It's about wolf shifters and their fated mates. Our heroine's name is Una, and she's a very low-ranking female in a pack where women are kind of treated like it's the 1950s. Like they're supposed to be like barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. Like your only value comes from having a man. You can't have a cell phone. Well, I guess women in the 1950s also couldn't have cell phones because they did not exist. But you get my point. And she's even lower because she's never shifted. She has no mate. And she was injured when she was younger, so she's not really seen as very desirable. But she's kind of carved out an existence for herself. She has created a business through the farmer's market, and her other misfit friends contribute to that. So although pack life isn't the best, like their little friend group is doing fine. One day she is tasked with serving beer during a fight at like a mess hall or something like that. I don't fully remember at this point. Did I mention it's also my second time filming? Anyway, so she is watching these dudes like duke it out. It's fight night, and she, in the middle, her biology starts kicking in, and it's like, hey girl, that's your mate up there. And it's the alpha of the pack, Killian. Now, he brutally rejects her in front of everyone, which is deeply humiliating. She's like, I'm gonna go lick my wounds. And then after that, we are back to business. And she's just like, I'm gonna continue moving with life. This is not gonna stop me. Then Killian keeps turning up like around her, and he's realizing maybe he made a mistake because his biology also starts kicking in and whispering in his ear, I guess, if that's how biology works. Thankfully, we did start the month off strong. This was a priority read. It's also multiple of my friends' favorite books, so I'm very happy that I liked it. I liked the heroine a lot because she had a spine. Although she was definitely like, oh man, this life isn't what I want it to be. Pack life, I think, could be so much better. She doesn't wallow. She's like, I'm gonna find a way to carve out a space for myself and carve out a space for my friends. And she's very much a leader and protector of her friends. So you can see how she is well matched with someone that is an alpha and leader of the pack. Now I'm thinking of the song, Leader of the Pack. Anyone know what I'm talking about? No, just me? Okay, cool. That's when I fell for leader of the pack. Hero at first made me so mad because I was like, good sir, you are gonna have to grovel. I feel like a lot of his actions can be interpreted in a different way. There was just a slow building of trust, a slow bit of them unburdening themselves with each other, and also kind of like having that break at times and then having to rebuild it. So I liked how that was done. I binged the shit out of this book. It wasn't perfect though. I will say that the wolves, they would just say the horniest shit. Like randomly they'd be like, damn area, whoa, really took me out. And then, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's like some backstory with the hero and heroine, I think supposed to contribute to more of them being like totally meant for each other. And I was like, I mean, I don't really need that. I bought that up front just based on the whole fated mates element. So I was kind of like, I didn't really need that. But anyways, rating 4 stars. And this is where it starts to go bad. Okay, so we have Bad Bishop by LJ Shen. This is the first in a series. I think this is a newer release from her. It's a mafia dark romance in in this book, we have a heroine whose name I did not write down. Regardless, we have a heroine. She is deaf, and her mother actually has her pretend that she has an intellectual disability to the point that her family doesn't even know. It's just like her and her mom. She, one night, is violently essayed while her parents, I believe, are throwing a party, and it results in a pregnancy. Now, her dad's really high up in the mafia, and he's like, I can't have my reputation tarnished. I can't have my daughter tarnished. He brokers an agreement or a deal with another mafia group that they need to smooth things over with, and he was like, you're gonna marry my daughter. You are gonna take responsibility for this baby. It's gonna be your baby. And I need you to look into who essayed her. And that is our hero. He didn't essay her, to be clear. Oh my God. The way I just was phrasing that sounded so wrong. So the man that's gonna be looking into all of this and marrying our heroine is our hero Bishop. I can only describe as unhinged. He's sort of like known for that in the mafia, and he's not gonna pass up an opportunity to marry a hottie with a body. So there's that. I seem to be in the minority on this one, but I hate this book. I think the premise just made me really uncomfortable. The hero is attracted to the heroine when he thinks she has an intellectual disability. He literally says at one point that she's not firing on all cylinders, and yet you still want to bang her? I just don't feel that good about that, to be honest. But ignoring that, I still didn't really like the heroine because she was so painfully naive to the point that she comes across like kind of juvenile. She at one point like didn't know what was going on with her body during some sexy times. And she didn't really know a lot about like pregnancy and stuff like that, but she's supposed to be really well educated. She supposedly has watched a ton of porn. And I was just kind of like, I just don't know that those things go together. There could have been room for like an incredible character arc, but this book felt like it was mostly about Bishop and not about her. I don't know, just nothing about this book landed for me. I don't know why I pushed. Like I kept thinking, because I have had like hits and misses with LJ Shen, that I'm like, maybe she can turn this around. She can totally turn this around. And then I just absolutely hated it. Anyways, I gave this one a rating of 1 star. Next up, I read Affliction, and this is by Crystal Johnson. This is the first in a trilogy. Am I making fetch happen? Are we gonna use that as slang for a trilogy? Anyway, first in a trilogy. It's zombie apocalypse is kind of the basis for this. So Quinn and her cousin River live in a bunker like under their home. They have stockpiled like food and weapons, and that's how they've kind of ridden out the majority of this zombie apocalypse and made sure that they haven't become infected. One day, they're celebrating Christmas, and they hear people upstairs, and they've been playing Christmas music kind of loud, and they're like, shoot, someone knows we're here. They've come into the house. They're looking for resources, and they're gonna find like the opening to our bunker. We gotta scare them off. Quinn goes up to scare them off, but it turns out they are not even focused on any of that because one of their friends is dying from something that appears to be kind of a curable illness of some kind. But because, you know, we're in end times, he's dying. So she ends up getting roped into a scheme where she's gonna go help them get medicine, but she keeps butting heads with their leader, Ryland. I ended up DNFing this at 15%. Not that there's anything wrong with this book. I actually enjoyed a lot of what I had been reading to that point, but I didn't realize until they started talking about their plans and how they were going to maneuver around the country that they were listing off like made up countries. And I was like, oh, so this is a fantasy. So no, thank you. It just wasn't what I was in the mood for. I like my apocalyptic romances to be contemporary. I want them on planet Earth. That's what I want to say. Again, nothing wrong with this. I just have to come back to it when I want a fantasy apocalyptic romance. Next up, we have Born for Marble, and this is by Nicci Harris. This is the third in an interconnected series called The Cradled Common, and this is like a dystopian, kind of sci-fi, kind of fantasy, dark, age gap, bodyguard romance. I can't talk. Have mercy on me. This is my second time filming. Have I mentioned that enough? Okay. Moving on. Basically, in this world, the life society as we know it has fallen because of genetic manipulation, of climate change. Oh God, what else? Wars, I think, are in there too. What's risen up in its place is this like utopia where you are assigned like a life's purpose, and in exchange for fulfilling that and feeding into what's called the trade, you get food, water, shelter, safety. Our heroine's name is Tuscany, and she is the young queen and the sister of the king from the first book. To become queen, had to go through a very brutal ritual at around age 11, and because it was so traumatic for her, she doesn't really trust anyone and mentally becomes unstable and is mostly locked away at this point in her life. Our hero is her bodyguard, who is this massive 7-foot tall guy. He becomes her protector, and he is responsible for protecting her specifically on this like trip that she's gonna do, kind of like touring around the kingdom. Very sadly DNF'd this one around 25 or 30%. This was a slog to get through. It was so painful and difficult, and every page I got through felt like I was running a marathon through peanut butter with a turtle. It sucks because I saw the connection of this couple in Born for Silk, but I just did not feel it and not see it in this book. I think part of it was that the heroine, while I have sympathy for what she went through, I just felt like her portrayal felt very cartoonish. It's very like Mad Woman, like, I'm gonna cut my hair because I'm so mentally unwell. It didn't feel like an earnest exploration of someone's mental health and someone's trauma. Made it difficult to connect with her. I also got really sick of her always being like, oh, be marble, because it doesn't really actually have anything to do with being queen. It's just like her way of saying be unfeeling. All right, also go off. It got repeated too much, so it became less like profound and more like, okay, we get it. Because she's kind of going in and out of psychosis, it was difficult to connect with her as a character and really know who she is beyond her trauma. It kind of icked me out, similar to Bad Bishop, where I don't understand why the hero is attracted to the heroine when she is in this very childlike state. She's so just mentally not there. I don't understand what you're attracted to. There was no plot. Was the other thing. So I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna come back to this one. I'm so disappointed. Like when I DNF'd this book, like I was on the verge of tears because I was just like, why is nothing working? Why do I hate reading right now? No rating for this one. I did end up DNFing it, as I said, and I don't think I'm coming back to it. All right, next up we have Wife Number 1, and this is by Elle Thorpe. This is the first book in a series. It's a dark romance. It's a wide choose. The premise for this one is that the heroine's family is part of a cult, and she is in the very coveted position of being wife number 1 to the leader. Now, all of his other wives have since produced heirs. She's the only one that can't seem to do it, and he hates her for this. Well, and also he's just an abusive piece of shit. When the heroine finds out that there's nefarious things going on within the cult, she's like, I gotta get me and my daughter out. That's how she ends up running into 4 dudes that are gonna protect her, who are all big and bad for different reasons. But anyways, this one I also DNF'd at 30%. Nothing really wrong with this one, similar to Affliction. I just wasn't really excited to pick this one up. I wasn't really connecting with any of the characters very deeply. I could tell also that there was cameos being made from other series and other books, so I felt like I was kind of missing context for who those people were. The cult is interesting. I did find that plotline interesting, but the hero's also like trying to become a chef at a restaurant business thing where I was just kind of like, I don't know that I care about this that much. I don't know. It's one of those that was kind of feeling like it was going to be a 3-star just because it's like not my speed, not because there's anything wrong with the book. I might come back to this when I need kind of something that I know what to expect and is kind of an easy breezy read. Again, no rating, I DNF'd it. So I decided to try and change things up after this point, and I read The Homemaker by Jewel E. Ann. This is a second chance slow burn contemporary, but this centers around Alice, who has crafted a very unique life for herself. She got a job working as a vintage housewife for a couple in Minneapolis. So she spends her days like wearing pearls and aprons and reading romance novels to help the man in this relationship fall asleep for his naps. It's a little bit strange, but it works for her and it works for this couple. That is until Murphy ends up walking through the door, because 8 years ago, Alice and Murphy had a bit of a fling for 2 weeks, and it changed them in ways that they could not have expected and also broke them irrevocably. So running into each other is very jarring for both of them. Murphy isn't coming back as a free agent. He is in fact engaged to this couple's daughter. So now they're going to be spending the summer a backyard away from each other because she's in the guest house and he's in the main house. And, you know, there's a little bit of unresolved feelings going on here. I absolutely devoured this book. It's exactly what I needed at this time. It was not perfect. There was a couple things that I'll point out. At the beginning, in particular, I was feeling a little squirrely, so I was like, I don't know how I feel about how this is starting. Hero and heroine, despite having politics being introduced, wanted to remain apolitical, and I'm like, you, Madam Author, did this to yourself. Just don't introduce them if you don't want to talk about them, you know? So I found that kind of odd, but I liked the setup. I felt like the dual timeline was excellent because there was delicious tension. Past timeline, you're like, why is she on this vacation? You also know that they have an expiration date when they're like kind of hooking up and getting together. And then the present timeline, like she is pretending she doesn't know him him. And I'm like, so how's she getting away with this? Why do we believe that she wouldn't know? And then also, you know, he's got a fiance, so there's tension there. So there's a lot to unravel about their lives and seeing how much they've changed. I also like that Julianne didn't shy away from the fact that he was with someone. She didn't like just make her terrible so that it was like an easy out, like, see, she's not right. The heroine even at one point was like, I can't even hate her. And like, yeah, there was like some times where she would do like little catty things. Cause I mean, if you could sense that your fiance had something going on for someone else, like I think you'd be a little bit spicy with them too. I felt like it just kind of tackled that head on rather than kind of shying away from that. The one thing though, I just never felt like the romance, like I did like all these like stolen moments. There's lots of sweet moments of just like being seen and someone just being there for you. But I really struggled with the fact that it never felt like things were really fully settled because they barely even decided to like be together like until right at the end of the book. And I kind of felt like I don't know that I got enough of them like together, settled, yes, feeling to feel like they earned an HEA. It felt like they just kind of like jumped into that. Then there was also something with the HEA that kind of gave me the ick. It's not super important, but it just felt a little bit creepy. It was kind of like packaged just like, isn't this cute and sweet? And I was like, ooh, I don't know that I like it. I'm giving this one a rating of 4 stars because I really, really did enjoy it. Next up, we have Daggermouth, and this is by H.M. Wolfe. This is a first in a duet. It's a fantasy dystopian dark romance. In this world, the cities, or the country, actually, I don't really know. The city, we'll go city, is in like rings, and the closer in you are, the more luxury you have, the more money. The further out you get, less control by the government, less money, less food. So our heroine is from the outer rings and she lives as a mercenary called a Daggermouth. She is one of the best because she just doesn't get attached. She is fully dedicated to her work. Her latest assignment, although very dangerous, is like right up her alley. The only problem is her bullet misses the mark. So she's then trapped in the inner rings and imprisoned. Who is this marks that she missed? That would be Grayson, the son of the leader. He kind of does his daddy's dirty work. He's primarily an executioner. So he does public executions on a pretty regular basis to get rid of people for the smallest of crimes. And it's like supposed to instill like law and order and a sense of control for like the inner circle folks. The latest order that his daddy Darius gives him is to marry his would-be assassin in an attempt to show control, that they can control a Daggermouth. They are able to turn her away from the rebellion. So it's like the ultimate show of control. But you know, he actually has to now live with his assassin. I ended up DNFing this one about 45% in, but I'm absolutely coming back to this. The writing is so pretty. It doesn't become purple at any point. It's just kind of like these quick and lovely descriptions. I felt like both the characters had very rich internal dialogue, but I think that's actually kind of why I ended up DNFing it though too, because it does have a slower pace as a result, and there isn't a lot of external dialogue where people are talking to one another. And so it just didn't feel like they were spending a lot of time together or talking. So it just didn't feel like there was a lot of progress towards the plot or progress in the relationship. It's one that I'm gonna come back to, but I need to be in the mood for something a little bit slower paced. Next up, I have To Cage a Wild Bird, and this is by Brooke Fast. This is a first in a series. This is incomplete at this point. It's a fantasy dystopian romance, and this is set in Davidium, which is a city that doesn't tolerate any crime. You commit the smallest crime, and you are sentenced to a brutal, brutal prison called Enlock. Now, at Enlock, it is very violent, it's corrupt, it's designed to kill off the prisoners over time and earn money. It's not meant to rehabilitate anyone. And the wealthy elite can actually come in and hunt prisoners, like Most Dangerous Game style. So our heroine, Raven, is a bounty hunter, and normally she is one of the people that is finding people that have broken the law and turning them in so they go to Enlock, but this time around intentionally getting herself arrested because her brother got arrested like the night prior, and she wants to get in there and rescue him and break him out. She ends up talking with someone that's kind of in the rebellion forces, something that she's not really a part of at this point. They are like, we have people on the inside, they are looking to break out. So if you go in and get your brother, we might have a way to actually bust you out, but you gotta work with the rebellion for this. There's just one complication. There is a guard that she knows she shouldn't trust because she can't tell what his motives are. This is a great one for anyone that's missing YA dystopians of yore from like the 2000s and the 2010s, but wants something that's like aged up and has a bit of spice. I think this is perfect. There is nothing about this book that is reinventing the genre. There is nothing about this that is new and fresh take, but it is well executed. It reminds me a bit of like Savage Lands meets like the Prison Planet series maybe, or like Prison Healer, but just kind of make it more dystopian. The main focus really is on the plot of like keeping people safe, getting people out, figuring out who's allies, who's foes, which for the most part, to be honest, is pretty straightforward. There is a really large cast of characters that you got to keep safe. So there's always this sense of like, we're going to lose someone at any moment that kind of puts you on edge. But I think the characters for the most part feel pretty flat and archetypal because there's so much focus on that plot. Like the heroine is brave and capable and always self-sacrificing, especially for her family. And the hero's the quiet protector type that's just, looking out for her. There's nothing new, innovative, and the romance was definitely like a subplot. There were little moments that I did like of like kind of tenderness, especially in this dark, grim place, but it kind of felt like it just jumped randomly because it was like, oh yeah, we got to get a spice scene in here real quick. So they just like had it escalate into physical stuff. This was marketed as a slow burn, but I would not say it's a slow burn. I would say that it's an underdeveloped romance. But for my rating, when I finished this, I was like 4-star, really solid. But I think the further away I get from it, the more I'm like a 3. Not because it's like bad or anything like that, but just because it feels average, I think is really what it comes down to. And I'm not hooked enough to be like, I am for sure going to read the next book. So that's where I'm kind of landing with this one. All right, next up we have Barbarian's Prize, and this is by Ruby Dixon. This is the 5th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. It's an alien romance with a fated mate component. In this world, human women were abducted by aliens from Earth. That ship then crash landed on a planet that the women like to call Not Hoth because it's constantly covered in snow. Since being on the planet, they've run into another species that are giant, blue, they've got tails. I'm just really, this kind of sounds like Avatar fanfic. Well, I guess they don't really have snow on that planet, at least as far as we've seen so far in the movies. How'd I get here? Okay, I need to move on. Anyways, but they've got dwindling numbers, and so they are super excited to have more women in the mix because they have these organisms called Qui that basically resonate in their chest when they find the perfect mate, and slowly the ladies have been pairing off with these blue men. So the heroine that we're following in this one, on the spaceship Over, end up being very violently essayed, and she's suffering from a lot of PTSD, so she hasn't resonated with anyone. She doesn't really want to. There's a lot of males vying for her attention. She's one of the last few that hasn't been paired up, but she feels really overwhelmed and she is not ready for that. So her hero is actually her close friend who is just so sure they are going to resonate. He's like, I just gotta bide my time. So the book is like him simping after her pretty much the entire book. And then him also kind of like working with her to get over her trauma sexy style. You know what I'm saying? I had picked this one up because I was like, I just need something familiar. I need to know what I'm getting into. And I think it was enjoyable for that reason, but this is definitely not my favorite in the series. I would even maybe argue my least favorite so far. The heroine's trauma, I do think was attempted to be tackled seriously and honestly, but it is super heavy, and I think a lot of it was handled a little bit too cleanly. Like it was just like she tried something and then it instantly worked, and it was like very linear progression. It just didn't feel like it had the depth necessary to like really tackle this topic. And honestly, I was just more interested in the side characters that we had because we get some perspectives from the gal that's getting the next book, and you get to see the tension between her and her guy, and I was like, I'm way more interested in what's going on over there. So this one's a rating of a 3-star, but I do mean that as a compliment. Next up, I got a wild hair. Guys, I read a historical, The Duke I Tempted by Scarlet Peckham. This is the first in an interconnected series. It's a historical romance with like a marriage of convenience and a BDSM-ish storyline. Heroine's name is Poppy, and she is a self-taught botanist, and she is kind of like making her way through the business world. So she really doesn't have any interest in marriage because of that. Now, she ends up being tasked with turning a ballroom into like a garden jungle situation, and this ball is intended for the Duke of Westmead. Did I write that down right? Oh, man, who the fuck knows? Regardless, it's for a duke. He needs to find a wife. He kind of spent his younger years saving the family's reputation and income because his dad messed that up, and now he needs an heir for his fortune. He ends up meeting Poppy because she's coming in to do this design work for his ball, and I just realized meat like beef and chicken meat. The sentence he meets Poppy really takes on a different meaning. I'm a child, ignore me. Anyways, oh, hello, Kevin. Goodbye, Kevin. So they end up having a connection, but it ends up creating a scandal the day of the ball. This could ruin Poppy and ruin her business. So he ends up proposing a marriage of convenience. He's like, I'm not looking for love. I just need an heir. I will not interfere with your business other than to give you money and my connections. So this sounds all well and dandy, but it turns out her new husband has a secret, and that secret is he likes to be spanked by ladies, which you find out like immediately, so that's not a spoiler. So I don't read historicals very often, so take my review with a grain of salt, but I have enjoyed Scarlet Peckham's novels before, so that's why I kind of picked this one up. Initially, this one felt like a fast burn because the first couple of interactions that they have, it's like flirty and smoochy. Thankfully, the scandal does kind of douse those flames, so then you do kind of get more of a slow build, but do have some sort of attraction established. It's more of like, we gotta rebuild this emotional intimacy that we kind of lost with the scandal. I liked the heroine because she was very independent and she didn't feel overly modern, but had some kind of modern sensibilities. She felt like she fit the historical setting. The hero was very damaged, but also enamored with her. But, you know, he's like trying to hide his secret, so it causes a lot of like miscommunication and just like frustration on both their parts. I will say, I felt like the miscommunication that they kind of kept butting up against, try and like hide their secrets and protect themselves from being vulnerable, did get a little bit old because it kind of was like they'd like build up and have something happen and they'd slide back down and build up and slide back down. And it wasn't like they slid back a little ways. It was like we slid fully back to zero. Got a little old. I liked how the BDSM stuff was done. I felt like it was realistic considering that the heroine was a virgin. So it's very, very slow. In fact, there's only one scene, I think, where she's the dom. I saw in some reviews that people expressed disappointment because I guess this had been like maybe marketed as a female dom book. But I think if you don't go in thinking that it's going to be a bunch of like her spanking and whipping him and are kind of viewing it more from the context of it's a historical, I think you'll have a fine time. I enjoyed it, but just a heads up with that. I give this one a rating of 4 stars because it was like the perfect breezy read that I needed at the time. Oh, fuck. Okay. Next up, I read my favorite fake romance, and this is by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This is the 3rd book in an interconnected series. Like, it's truly so interconnected. You do not need to read them in order. They barely know each other. It's fine, it's fine. This is a fake dating, as I'm sure you can imagine, book with a second chance and a road trip. And Kevin is sniffing my hand. Hi, buddy. Did you hear him just lick his cone? He got so excited that I scratched his little butt that he just licked his cone. You hear that? Okay. Focus. I really don't want to talk about this book. That's why I'm distracting myself. Okay, so this is about Dr. Easton Walsh. So she thinks going into this dinner date night that she is going to be proposed to by her famous biohacker boyfriend because they stick very rigidly to what science tells them about the optimal way to do things, the optimal sleep patterns, the optimal things to eat and when, and the optimal time to date. And they've hit that. They've even talked about rings. So she's going into this thinking, I'm obviously being proposed to. Turns out, instead, she's getting dumped. She had planned to be on a trip with her biohacker boyfriend, and she's like, well, I'm not going on that trip anymore. And so she decides to go home. Now, home isn't exactly the best place for her. Her father is an alcoholic and a hoarder and is a and she's got some felon brothers. And so she's not in the best of circumstances to really like decompress. She's planning to go to a wedding in a couple of weeks. Now, our hero is the bride-to-be's older brother, the man that broke her heart, but he notices she's not really acting like herself. And he's like, I gotta get her out of this town, get her away from her dad. And so he proposes that she go on a road trip to pick up his grandmother and then go to his sister's wedding. He kind of does it under the guise of like, you're doing me a service in case anything medically happens with grandmother, that you'll be there to take care of it. But she's like, well, I need to get something out of this. I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend, because she is reeling him into a scheme to help get her biohacker boyfriend back. Because she's like, I know he's going to come around. I'm just going to speed up that timeline a little bit by making him jealous. This one was such a letdown in just like the absolute weirdest way. I would say like half to like even 70% of this book, I was eating it up. Nom, 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 nom. Thank you, mommy. We're on vacation. We're away from reality. We're reflecting on what we really want. The heroine's got this tough background, but she's really pulled herself out of those circumstances and made something of herself, lost herself along the way a little bit. We're gonna rediscover it with the help of someone that knows us deeply, like the hero who's, you know, got some deep trauma of his own. alone, but is quick with the banter. They can just give each other shit all day, and he's very protective of her. And the fake dating setup made for some funny moments, especially because the grandma has a friend that wants to use social media so bad. So she's like trying to set them up for all these photos, and it just makes for awkward tension, but so funny. So I really loved most of the road trip of them just like spending time together. But then once they got to the wedding, like this book shit the bed so hard. The scenes felt disjointed. I couldn't keep track of where I was, and I felt like I would be missing context in scenes. One moment they would be on the porch before the wedding, and then suddenly they're walking down the aisle, but we didn't get any like guests arriving, or like the music started, them lining up, go down the aisle. There was just like transition between scenes or within a scene just felt like it wasn't really happening. And I really started to hate the hero at this point because his reason for pushing her away was not that good. Came across spineless. Like he's boo-hooing to himself over this situation that happened, but I'm like, you did this to yourself, so I just don't really feel that bad for you, and you've hurt the heroine in the process, like immensely. We were getting flashbacks from him and her about that night and what happened, and I just don't feel like we needed that level of detail about what happened that night. Like, could have been an email. I just needed the hero to like say what happened. I didn't need both of their perspectives on that. Then the hero's jealousy goes way too far in a moment that felt like he just kind of kicked the heroine while she was down, and I lost all respect for this guy. With the stuff coming up about their past, like there was stuff with her dad that came up, and we just neatly tied that in a bow, and I was like, why did we do this? We did not need this element at all. The last couple of chapters, I was fully skimming because I was like, I need this to be over. Wanted so much better for the heroine. Like, hot take, I like a hero with a spine. Look at me being controversial. I think I'm rating this 3 stars. I might drop it to 2 just because that ending annoyed me so much, but it's like 80% of the book was good. I don't know. That's my rating. I don't know. Next up, I read Wedded to the Lich by Layla. This is the 8th book in an interconnected series. It's a fantasy monster romance with an arranged marriage. Liches are almost gone, and our hero is one. He needs to marry because he needs to stop them from going extinct, first off. But also, he's kind of lonely despite being a solitary creature. Problem is, liches are very feared because they're considered harbingers of death. He ends up approaching the temple, and they find someone for him, but she is sickly and meek. Think like the starving street urchins you see in a period piece. She's one of those. So she'll do the trick, and then they fall in love. This one is like short, sweet. Like when I talk about sickly, saccharine, sweet monster romances, this is what I think of. There was like a little bit of edge to this one because massive trigger warning. There's a lot about eating disorders in this. Oh my God. I don't know. This book really isn't anything crazy to write home about. Like it's good. Like it's fine. It's just not really my speed. So I think I landed at a rating of 3 stars. Finally, we have Commodity by Shay Savage. This is a standalone post-apocalyptic forced proximity romance with a bodyguard. I'm gonna read the blurb exactly as it appears. A woman hunted by human traffickers, a hot and dangerous bodyguard, utter destruction, end of civilization, the beginning of a new form of currency where women are the highest commodity. So my understanding of what was gonna be happening in this book was that heroine was already in the apocalypse. We're having to run and dodge men because they're trying to traffic them because there's so few women left, and then like the hero comes in to protect her. That's not what this is. We get into this book like pre-apocalypse. The heroine has a bodyguard because she's a whistleblower for government officials, I think, or government contractors. I don't exactly remember now. Trafficking women and children because she notices that we can talk. English is our first language. When she notices a degree. No, it's not apparently. Oh my God, now my voice is going. She notices a discrepancy in accounting. And so then this is a bodyguard that is meeting her at the airport so that she can be escorted to a government hearing of some kind. The world ends while he's escorting her. Aliens come and women, children, and pets are gone, and there's men dead everywhere in the streets, but there are a few survivors. So her and her bodyguard end up banding together for survival. I just didn't love that premise is really what this came down to. I ended up DNFing this, I think like 30% in. I didn't realize that this was gonna end up feeling in the setup like James Patterson, espionage thriller, like Midwest dad book. It's just not really my shtick. Like that's not really what I was looking for. Because the human trafficking element was already part of the story, I just felt like that doesn't mean as much then when it's also happening after the apocalypse, because I'm like, I would like to examine that from the perspective of in a world where we don't have very many women, how does that change how we interact with women? And it's like, well, but that was already an element like introduced already. And so there was like already trafficking after her, like literally before the book even opens. I don't know. And then there's just like a couple of jumps in logic where like we know because we're told in the prologue that aliens came and abducted women and children and killed the men, but like they figure it out way too easily, but no one saw anything. They're just like, what could have possibly done this? Couldn't be another government, must be aliens. I don't know that we have enough evidence to make that conclusion. And then the heroine was kind of frustrating me because it just felt like she was like antithetical to survival. Hero is like decked out, ready for the apocalypse. This man was prepared. He has guns, food, like this man has a skill set, and this girl can't even sit still while he's cleaning a wound. Like she full on almost kicks him off of a bed. And I'm just like, girl, come on. He points out that someone is lying and has evidence that they are lying. And she's like, you, I think, are being paranoid. And she came across like a naive idiot. Girly pop, we are in the apocalypse. I need you to step up. Like, come on. It'd be one thing if she was like trying to learn and just be bad at it. Like, fair game. Like, that would be me, assuming I even survive. But like, I need you to like want to survive. I need you to make attempts and act like you want to survive this. I still really love Shay Savage's writing. This one was just a miss for me, mostly because of that premise. I think I was already kind of like, I don't really like this. But this is a DNF for me. I'm probably not coming back to this one. All right, so hopefully this file does not get corrupted. But those are all the books that I read in December and DNF'd and was disappointed with. Hopefully you had a better December. I really wish that for you. Let me know how your December went. Let me know what you were loving, what you were hating. Let me know if you've read any of these books and had a same or different experience. I'd love to know that. With all of that, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like this video if you did end up liking it. And don't forget to subscribe if you would like more content from me. I would love to have you back on another video. So if this is your first one, maybe just give it a little subscribe. I really, really hope I see you on my next video. Bye-bye.